Hi guys, and welcome to a deck tech video for Monogreen. Wait, Marwyn? Guys, is this really good? Who are you and what have you why have you brought this here?
My name's Ananda on the Discord. This is a deck that I picked up a little while ago. I fell in love with Mono Green and I started playing Yisan like many other people. And then Opposition Agent happened and playing Yisan was very, very unfun and challenging. So I started looking at different decks and I turned to Marwyn and haven't looked back since. And I've had really good success playing it and tracking my games. So I've stuck with it and joined the Marwyn Discord where I met my friend over here.
Hi, I'm Jam and Ram on the Discord, and I found Marwyn trying to look for a budget deck to build while I'm finishing my Ukima deck. Decided no, I like Marwyn more, then I went full power with that. I'm actually the current author of the budget list on the main Marwyn Discord. You can find my list there in the primer, and it's also featured on the Budget Brews website. There you can find my deck list.
So Monogreen actually has two really functional commanders, but for some reason you guys decided to go with this one. Yeah, Yisan Opposition Agent, I can really see that. But Selvala, I mean, why Marwyn over Selvala here?
So this is something we actually quite commonly hear. We often hear like, oh, you're playing the worst Selvala or the not good green commander. And we tend to disagree with that. And we actually welcome it. It's kind of nice because it allows Marwyn to sit in a pod and get overlooked a little bit, which gives us a bit of an advantage.
That is so true. Being someone people think is just casual player is actually an advantage in the game.
Oh, very much so. So yeah, for us, it really just gets overlooked.
So like in having played Selvala and Yisan before, I've had them gilded drakes many times. I've seen them get bolted off the board. Sometimes they're very hard to stay. Marwyn often stays overlooked, and they'll allow her to stay on the board and accrue the advantage, and then ultimately be that combo piece that she ends up being.
Marwyn just allows you to benefit from all the general kind of things you're already doing, which is different to Selvala. I'm not going to say it's better, it's just different. We incur a lot of incremental value just by playing your dorks and other like pieces that eventually allow us to combo. So Marwyn just keeps growing and nets you more and more mana each turn just by doing general things you're already going to be doing, which is a huge advantage for me personally over Selvala. So in that way, I think she's better. But yeah, as I said, Selvala is a very established deck, so I'm not going to say it's a bad deck or it's better or worse than Marwyn. I think it's actually pretty much on the same level, even if the Selvala is more established within the meta.
It's just different.
Yeah,
it's just different. But I think it's pretty much the same power level, even if most of the people disagree with us.
So how is this deck currently performing for you? You've been playing this deck's Marwyn Monogreen on against some cEDH players. How does it go in the current metagame, would you say?
I normally play on the cEDH Nexus, which is a group of very talented players, in my opinion. I also play some games on the rtell Discord as well as others. It has an above 25% win rate over 134 games that I've tracked.
Wait, did you say that you have over 25 win% rate with this?
Yes, I have an above 25% win rate over 132 games. I know that sample size isn't necessarily the best. I would like to try and get it to somewhere, say like 1,000 or at least 500, because that would give us a better picture.
That's really good. I mean, 25% is where you should get with any form of deck. That is your average. But this isn't supposed to have a 25 win% rate. In people's eyes, this should be like a 10 or 5.
Yeah, and right now it's sitting at, for me personally, it's sitting at a 32% win rate. I'm currently playtesting a different version for Timothy 1000. I'm actually seeing even better numbers with that, but the sample size is much too low. Also, at this point, I think I should say that the initial creator for the list on the database, Wifflebat, I think he did an excellent job with the deck that he's created. And just with the way the meta is online and the changes that we've seen with things like Hull Breacher and Opposition Agent, I've tended to try and do some more experimental things to try and adapt the deck to that changing meta that we've seen. Say, like, if anyone wants to play in the cEDH Nexus, like, please check down below and join, because it's a great place.
Meet people like-minded, play some Magic.
And if you decide to switch from Selvala, Yisan, or any of the other Monogreen commanders, the Marwyn Discord will be linked down below as well.
You can play them too, but it's okay.
We won't judge.
We won't judge.
Safe space.
So we're currently in some form of like Turbo NOS, a little bit Rule of Law stacks, and some other variants of meta of sorts. Why do you guys think that this deck is able to squeeze in and get there with its greeny stuff?
As I understand it, it's very Turbo NOS kind of focus right now, and while Turbo NOS does run out of steam quite quickly, especially going to mid to late game, especially late game, especially if it's up against stacks and stuff like that, we can build a board state through stacks and into the late game, where just through the sheer incremental value that we generate, even if you get mana screwed, just by casting low cost creatures like Llanowar Elves and Korean Range and stuff like that, your Marwyn does continue to grow, and you do eventually get to that mana level of casting all your big haymaker spells like a giant Finale of Devastation. The
way I see the meta online right now is, on one side of it, there's this Turbo NOS trying to go as fast as they can, and they compromise a little bit of their long game in order to try and go for that really quick win. And then on the other side of that, you have these Rule of Law heavy stacks decks. And then I like to think that we fall somewhere in between, and I'm not going to take credit for this, but Hire recently heard him mention that the way he views Selvala, which also kind of includes us in a sense, is more like a mid-range deck. So I try to play the deck in that sense too, and kind of view it as that deck, in that we're not going to try and outright race the Turbo NOS decks. Sometimes we can if they don't get those clean turn 2 wins. But what's really nice about our deck is we are not spell-based, we're creature-based. And they're much harder to counter, and they work in a much different way in the sense that they stick around after. And in the 132 games that I've logged, I have seen Toxic Deluge twice. That is the only board wipe I've seen. I haven't seen anything else. I feel like people aren't playing board wipes right now, so we're not getting punished. There is one card right now that I see that frequently that can be pretty challenging, and that's Jessica Thrice Reborn. And so you just have to kind of intelligently play around it and try and grow Marwyn, or avoid casting her into a Jessica, making sure that she's big enough to kind of outgrow the Jessica, which is something that I feel like she benefits from, as opposed to, say, a Yisan or a Selvala.
Yeah.
Their toughness is stuck at 3 a lot of the time, whereas ours will continue to grow with every elf that we play. And that is something that definitely kind of gets us ahead of being able to get burned out by something like Jessica.
Another thing that Ananda did mention is that while the Turbo NOS decks, they do tend to be quite a bit faster than us, trying to aim to finish games by turn 2 if they can. And one thing that shocks people about Marwyn is that we can race if the cards are right in our hands, and we have that guard draw that everybody has. We can drop a turn 1 Marwyn. Turn 2 you can drop something like a Staff of Domination and an Invigorate or something like that, and then by the time you hit turn 3, turn 4, you can already start threatening wins through a number of different combos. And it's just that people don't expect this deck to be as fast as it is.
So Marwyn being really similar to Yisan and Selvala, I'm guessing it's the same combos that they are running.
But yeah, it's pretty much the same kind of game plan. It's get infinite mana, dump it into a draw engine, and then get something like Giant Finale of Devastation, or loop something like Beast Within, and then win on the combat step there. Wizards has printed a lot of new cards for us that we can combo with. Now there it's Hyrex Tower Scout, Kogla, Ashaya. Those things have just given us so much more combo potential within mono green, aside from all the extra cards that come with mono green that allows us to protect our board states, like something like Veil of Summer, Autumn's Veil, and even the
Allosaur Shepherd.
Shepherd, that is Jumpstart, yes, not Double Masters.
I've actually seen someone use the Allosaur Shepherd's 6-man ability to try to kill someone.
I use it all the time to protect one of my creatures. Sometimes someone will have a bolt or something, and you can turn.
Yeah, this is anti-board wipe.
It is
very much so.
Same with the Zuri Renegade Leader, which is a change from the database list that I've slotted in. It allows you for 5 mana to give +3/+3 and trample, but sometimes in the face of like one of those Toxic Deluges I talked about, I was able to give that extra 3 boost, and the Toxic Deluge player was not very happy.
I can see that.
talking about some of the combos too, it's what's interesting about Marwyn in combination, or I should say, differently than some of the other commanders, like Selvala in particular, is that some of the combos work better for us than others. So the Aquarian and Ashaya line works better for us because every single time you cast a Aquarian Ranger, it's an elf.
It's an elf.
Yes.
So Marwyn will grow.
Oh.
Whereas a downside of the Hyrax Tower Scout Kog'Maw line is you need Marwyn to be at over 5 counters. 4 counters. She needs to have 5 counters minimum to be able to go infinite with the mana, because otherwise she won't be able to generate enough to recast, to bounce and recast the Hyrax Tower Scout. So it's a less powerful win con for us, but it still often works, and quite often it does work. But it's just things that you need to kind of realize, like the differences between the two decks and picking your lines. The Temur Sabertooth Wirewood line works a lot better for us, I would say, because we run a higher density of elves, and the Wirewood Syndicate requires you to pick up an elf to untap a creature, and we'll often have more elves that Selvala might not be running. And then you wanted to talk about the win cons. In terms of dedicated win cons, it's kind of interesting with this deck because one of them is the Finale of Devastation, which also acts as a tutor, which is quite nice. Which is
my favorite win con.
It's not just a win con. As far as just a win con, I would say Staff of Domination. That card operates kind of solely in that slot and that ability, that we don't often use it for any of the other value, like paying 5 to draw a card or anything like that. It's often just as a finisher, and it does suck for us because it's an artifact and we can't tutor it, so it's a little bit harder for us in that sense. But there's other ways, and we're trying other new tech, like Duskwatch Recruiter, to be able to...
You have a tiny tutor here, the Fierce Empath, to find the Great Oak Guardian.
Yes, or it can find us a Woodland Bellower, and then the Woodland Bellower can find us is Duskwatch Recruiter. So you can drop a Fierce Empath, go get a Woodland Bellower. The Woodland Bellower will find the Duskwatch Recruiter, and then you can pay 2 and a green to look at the top 3 cards and put a creature among them in your hand. The other 2 go on the bottom of your library. So now you can draw all the creatures, cast all the creatures, draw the remainder of your deck, finish that way.
So, and there's also like another kind of tutor for us. It's Tooth and Nail.
And that finds 2 creatures. That just wins the game, Tooth and Nail. Into this, I'm guessing.
If you can entwine Tooth of Nail, there's actually like a kind of convoluted combo steps that you can follow to just kind of win the game on the spot with just that card if you have enough mana for it.
Wait, are we doing math? We're green players. We play big creatures.
We do that.
Fetch a Shire and Woodland Bellower. Woodland Bellower then fetches Quarian Ranger and a Shire. You do those loops. Then Quarian Ranger returns your Woodland Bellower. Woodland Bellower then fetches your Eternal Witness. Eternal Witness then gets back your Tooth and Nail, and then you can finish the game off however you like.
And that's also part of the fun of the deck too, and like figuring out those lines. It's not as straightforward. You do have to kind of like pick and choose where you're going to go,
which is actually another strength for us because you can pivot between combos. Usually you can just pivot next turn and try to threaten to win again.
And all respect to both Yisan and Selvala. I love both those decks. I've played both those decks, and I respect both those discard communities. But what I found lacking in them was that they both favor either for Yisan tutoring or for Selvala drawing, and it's a little bit harder for them to pivot into their wins, I find. Yisan's case, Opposition Agent is one card, as I know you would know playing Sisse, that you have to have an answer for, or you're just kind of shut down. And then on the other side, the card I see a lot in the current meta is Hull Breacher. And for Selvala, because she runs so many giant creatures that she then sacrifices for card draw to try and continue the storm, if someone at any point flashes in that Hull Breacher, she is kind of stuck because she's now sacrificed the thing that lets her not only be the fodder for the sacrifice for the draw, but also for the mana production. Whereas for Marwyn, I just slow down for a second. I say, okay, and Marwyn will still make the same amount of mana next turn, and I can now use her the next turn to feed into a tutor or into something else. That something else doesn't actually have to be something that gets rid of the hull breacher. A lot of the times when I play against these stack pieces, I like leaving them in place and letting other people try and deal with them, and I just pivot the game plan towards either more drawing or more tutoring. And that's something that I found has been kind of unique. And it makes the deck, like we do run answers and we can help out the table, but it definitely does make us like slightly parasitic in a way, in that people will play these things that need responses. And I will often just pivot my game plan around the stacks piece, leaving the other decks to deal with it. And then when they do remove it, it obviously benefits me, but I've still progressed my game plan at that point.
So you're basically sitting, leaning back, just waiting, fueling resources, being ready, because when that stacks piece disappears, you are open again.
In a game of attrition, we generally perform better than many other decks, especially if it's something that shuts down mana production. Marwyn does get scary quite quickly. You can even get a commander damage kill in with her if you have nothing else to do on board and you have no cards in hand.
How big does this usually get for you guys in average? But in games where she's not really winning and the games goes into this game of attrition, where is the power and toughness of this in usual?
I'd say for me personally about like 8-9 damage. 8-9.
So
she's actually capable of like free-shotting people almost.
Oh, easily.
My experience is a little bit different, and it's probably the meta I play in that I would say in these Staxy games, she often sits with about 5 or 6 counters on her. So like knock people out just swinging with her.
You know what I love? A card that is good for you in the deck, and is it good at destroying stacks cards, is also a combo piece, a 2-card combo. It just really showcases how many layers of plan Bs you have. For if you're like, just like you said, if your final devastation gets countered, you have something else.
Yeah, it's always, there's just another thing that you can do.
It's so funny. Anytime something gets countered, the feeling I have is just like, okay, like I'll find something else, and like there's just so many different ways to get there that you literally are just like, all right, cool, next.
Just find King Kong, and King Kong solves all problems.
Monkey the best.
The feeling I'm getting from this is that the big difference between Marwyn and Selvala is that Selvala is forced to play these quote-unquote, actually, honestly, bad cards, where you're playing mono-green staples, and you're still getting the same thing, basically.
Yes.
That's it for us. If you want to take a look at exactly how these two crazy people have been putting this mono-green elf ball together, there's a link in the description below of the video. But also, there is a great way of building this commander at a budget, so there's a link for a budget version of this as well.
I'd just like to thank everybody over at the Marwyn Discord, link down below, for helping with this deck construction and trying to get this thing as tuned as possible. There's quite a few active people there, so join anytime and more than welcome for all new players.
And I just want to take a second, thank Mons for letting this happen, and for Timmy T1000. Oh, thank you. Timmy T1000 picking the deck for the MLC and putting a bit of a spotlight on it, and for being very active in the Discord, as well as Wifflebat for creating the original list, and to all the people at the cEDH Nexus. Everyone's looking for a great place to play with a bunch of like-minded, really nice people. That's it. That's the spot. Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. See you around, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what I do and you wanna support me, feel free to share my videos or even checking out my Patreon page. Also, purchasing cards from the TCG Players website using the affiliate link in the description below of the video will also help the channel grow. So a big thank you to all of you.